color you need. First I thought that was the color you had, and then I saw it was not the one you wanted. I don't know, it's just that. Okay, so how are you doing? What would you like to work on? I kind of said there was some breakthroughs after this last session. It's not uncommon, you know. It's like a lot of times when we start clearing energy with people, they don't want to let go, they go into resistance. Would you say her full name for me? Just whatever her name is now is fine. Does she hold her spine real straight? It looks kind of rigid, like holding it that way tightly, not relaxed. Okay, it's the most outstanding thing I saw when I first said her name. Now I'd like you to say your name was, just your current name, and then her name was, and I'll look at the energy between the two. When you said the two names together, the image that lit up immediately was like, you know, sometimes when men are about to get in a fight and they'll have hold of each other's shirts, kind of pulling themselves toward each other and sort of, snarling at each other. That was that picture I saw, and I saw the two of you doing that, and then your faces changed into male faces, and a past life image lit up. And you see this past lifetime of the two of you in a fight. Hold on just a second. Let me just pull this one. Something's in the sky. Has there ever been any issue with a jealousy over you? That's a karmic thing between the two of you, because what I'm seeing in this past lifetimes, the two of you were men. You were kind of friends, and you lived in the same community, you were friends, but very competitive, and you both in love with the same woman. And what I'm seeing is I'm seeing you in that lifetime. You're both men in that lifetime, so when I say this, you know that I'm talking about males. I see you actually going to him in that lifetime and threatening him that he better stay away from quote-unquote your woman, you know, that the two of you were going to get married, and then he may as well just give up, and that's it. And he's saying, you know, that it's not over yet. He has as much claim to her as you do, and you're trying to tell him that, you know, she's already agreed to marry you, and that the two of you want to get married, and that, you know, you acknowledge that there had been some connection with him, but that it was in the past and it was time for him to let go. And he was saying he never would. And I see you like take hold of him by the shirt and just say, you know, I'm warning you, you know, you have to stop this now. This is really crazy. She doesn't want you, you know. And I see him taking you by the shirt back and giving you a shove and a fighting scene. down, drag out fist fight. Old-fashioned looking, I guess that's the word. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but anyway, it's a pistol type thing. It's weird to have a long barrel. It's really a strange situation. It looks like it's his father that comes in to break it up. And he has a trigger cocked and everything. And he ends up saying, like, the two of you are going to have like a gunfight and fight this out once and for all, because this is gotten to the point of ridiculous. And you're telling him if there's nothing to fight over, she doesn't want to marry him. And the father says, you know, when two men are at odds like this and you have to determine who's the better man, it's really an old-fashioned kind of thing. And I just see you being appalled at the whole thing. It's kind of like, but there's nothing to fight over. She's made up her mind, you know. They just wanted to leave us alone. And he feels like he was with her and that you had interfered in their relationship. Whereas the truth is that she had never wanted to marry him, even though he was coming to see her. And then the two of you fell in love, and then that was it, you know. She didn't want to see him anymore. And it literally comes to that. I mean, you end up literally having to do like this gunfight thing. And it looks like you initially just shot him on the right arm. And then from the ground he picks up the gun to shoot you, and you end up having to kill him. Like you'd only wanted to wound him, you know, just to end the whole thing. And he said, I don't want to, you know, I don't need to do any more. It's over. And he says, no, it's a fight to the death. And he picks up the gun to shoot you. And that was the end of it. But there's all this karma, and I see just all this like, grief and regret, and you knew that the whole fight was senseless, but you felt like this powerlessness somehow to stop it because you wouldn't give up. And that's the karmic thing that I see. Like, there's something about that energy that's just like right between the two of you. It's like right between your third eyes and your throat chakras and your heart chakras. Is it really? Is it over Guy? Mm-hmm. She's just jealous. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's like her insecurities and her feelings are not good enough. And my sense is there may be another lifetime beyond that one that has to do with some kind of a competitive thing, but that's the one that's most immediately lit up. So let me clear those pictures out. That's what I keep seeing in that lifetime. If you're just kind of in shock about it, because it's like, you don't get it, there's nothing to fight over. Even if he killed you, she wouldn't marry you, you know? She wasn't in love with the guy, and he just couldn't get it. I felt like you were what was blocking him, and you had changed her mind. And see, in that lifetime, it went back to even stuff like when you went to in grade school. It looks like you probably completed about the equivalent, maybe of today's 5th or 6th grades together. Even in school, to see this, like, it looks like he in that lifetime was a lot slower than you were. And neither one of you were particularly interested in studies, but it came easier for you. And he really felt kind of humiliated by that. He always needed to one-up you somehow. It's never seemed to quite manage it. You know? The script you got. Let me see if I can clear it out. Oh, did you? It's like, well, let's take up where we left off last time and see if we can get it straight this time. It's like basically what it looks like it's going to take is for you to just totally stop playing the game altogether, you know? It's like if you decide you're not going to play the game and you simply say, look, I just can't be your friend anymore. And it may really have to come to that. Like laying it out on the line. I don't feel like you're being a friend because, just list the reasons why. And it looks like that's what it's going to take to really end the karma, because what's happening is you keep feeling guilty that you can't find a way of resolving it. And you need to just get clear that it's her issue around self-esteem and security and competitiveness, you know? And that there's a point where you have to just literally love the person enough to say no. I just won't play. And then they have to work that karma out with other people. You don't have to be involved in it anymore. But I want to double check this. I'm clearing pictures between the two of you right now. And in that other lifetime too, right? It just doesn't look to me like you ever tried to defeat him in any way. It just was kind of the nature of the way it went, you know? Yeah. Do you recall one? Yeah, good. She just get real emotional when you do it. Well, it's time to say no. Do you have to be in association with her? Yeah, I get a sense that there's something behind this one, but I've got to get it cleared out before I can even get to anything else, because when I try to find anything beyond it, just like this is just like right on the surface. I'm clearing out some past life programming stuff, and also some of your programming around having to give everyone a fair chance. And it's like there's a difference in giving everyone a fair chance and allowing somebody to basically fuck over you. Excuse my expression, but it's just like that's the most appropriate description I could see of what's going on. You know? And she's just basically not being emotionally responsible in that situation at all. Tears to my eyes from some of my own childhood stuff, but it's just so appropriate in the situation because the words go, I love you enough to let go, enough to say no, enough to go away. And it's like, it's about this girl who was for 20 years lived with an alcoholic and finally couldn't play band anymore. Kind of about not being codependent to people's emotional problems if they're not willing to be responsible. Underlying issue here. I'm still clearing with like programming stuff out of your aura, and it looks like it's like your mother's name. There's some programming in your space from your mother, kind of about once you're a friend or with someone that you have to be loyal to them forever. Like if you want to have, it's kind of like programming that has some good aspects to it. Like if you want a friend, you have to be a friend. And loyalty and giving people a fair chance, but it also has to do with on your mom's side about never abandoning her and things like that. And this woman kind of gets in on that program. Like, you never have a right to abandon someone once you have a connection to them. she's doing is reading the pictures in your space and quoting them to you. It's like she's kind of using that against you in a sense. I mean, your mother was programming you that way out of her fear of being kind of old and alone, no one around. But she's just getting in on that program. Okay, now there's a belief picture that's stuck in your third eye, and I'd like you to close your eyes and ask for a picture or a symbol to represent this belief. And the belief is that it's kind of like once you make an alliance with someone, whether it's your marriage partner or a friend or a business association or family, that once that alliance is established, that you have no right to break it unless you're both in mutual agreement. It's kind of like you could never divorce someone unless they were in agreement also, or you could never end a friendship unless you both agree. And it's kind of like you have to be willing to try everything that they're willing to try to make it work out. You have a picture for it? Great, okay, so go on and make that into a photograph. And stamp it canceled a few times in there. Like you have a red rubber stamp that's canceled. And then tear it up and burn it in a violet flame. I'm seeing some past life pictures around. Past life pictures of yours around kind of like fickleness and lack of. I just see this lifetime when you were kind of like this real cantered, whiny kind of person who didn't really care about anybody but yourself. And it's kind of like as a child you never got any real attention except you were born to a very wealthy family. But everything was very surface, very superficial, and you were kind of like a spoiled brat, even as an adult. It's like you didn't really have loyalties to anybody. You didn't have the very best. You just couldn't stand it, that kind of thing. And there's some pictures in your third eye about that. Okay, and in that lifetime, you and this woman were sisters. And it looks like you were the younger sister. And like out of the two of you, you were the one who was kind of always a little bit more frail and got a lot more attention. And she was the one who was kind of like the workhorse between you, the one who helped her mother more, who took on more responsibility, kind of a strong one. And yet she seemed to get less glory for it, even though in that lifetime she kind of was, in my opinion, an easy one to be around. She was kind of the one who was, loyal and true, but never really got the credit for it. And you were kind of very whiny and demanding and frail and got a lot of attention, and she, even from her, in a lot of ways, I've seen stuck there in that lifetime. Do you feel like sometimes in relationships now, like you have to take what you get and not ask for anything else? Well, it looks like that's kind of like in reaction to this past lifetime, because the past lifetime picture there is kind of like one of you with this whiny face, and you know, your hair's done perfectly, and you have on a beautiful dress, and you're all made up, and you just have this big frown on your face, saying nothing's ever good enough. And it's like a guilt picture around nothing will ever satisfy me. And then it's like in this lifetime kind of having guilt, like if you feel that way, sometimes you may feel that way, you may even express it, but then you feel guilty about it. You know, it's like a guilt picture if you can't be satisfied with what everyone else is satisfied with. So I'd like you to close your eyes for a moment. We'll call it, it's more like a self-judgment picture that has a lot of guilt stuck on it. So I'd like you to get a picture or symbol for that kind of self-judgment picture, like this is who I am. I'm not satisfiable, I'm whiny, I'm kind of useless, you know? And then just cancel that a few times and we're going to tear it out of our mind. You know, there is a contract left from that lifetime. You know, it's kind of like from getting all the attention, and it's somehow, it's like that sometimes where the youngest is the one who's like the apple of everybody's eye, whether they deserve it or not. And the older one may take on all the responsibility but never really gets the credit for it. Well, that was the situation in that lifetime, and you do have a contract with her from that you kind of owe her the recognition. She kind of deserves to get it back at some point. So you need to also go ahead and earn that contract. And that contract is stuck in your heart chakra. It's coming from a place of where you took something away from her. Even in that other lifetime, it looks like you kind of felt sorry for him because he really wanted the woman that you were. It's like a contract based on self-pity. If you remember that one, it does deserve a chance, you know. So make sure you just leave that in your mind. Well, now I'm kind of having to pull some of her energy out of your heart chakra because you've kind of taken on some of her, like grief and hurt or not feeling not good enough. Have you felt at times like when you remember that you can feel what she's feeling in that level? Yeah. That's because you take it into yourself. She kind of manipulates with guilt and self-pity, but it does come from, you know, she just has this kind of thing of not being appreciated. Well, I just think you really need to tell her that, she may have problems and need to work on her self-esteem or whatever. I mean, I don't know if you need to say that to her or not, but just to let her know that you feel like you're at a point in your life where you want to share your life with friends and loved ones who celebrate each other's successes. And that, you're tired of feeling guilty around her and feeling kind of like controlled by her competition stuff. Would you say both names again? Okay, there's one more thing I'm seeing. That's from the lifetime when you were sisters, and you were kind of like wanting and stuff, and kind of, never satisfied. It looks like at the end of that lifetime, that when she was dying, you realized that you had always loved her and never shown her that you've taken her for granted like everyone else does. And so there's another contract that you made with her at the time of her death, which says, I really owe you that because I didn't give it to you. It's like, I do love you and I do appreciate you, and I really owe you that. And if I had, it's kind of like if I had a chance to do it over again, I'd make sure that you know. So the contract is that you kind of owe her, like, sticking with it until she really knows that she's appreciated and valuable. Like you took on the responsibility for her good and her issues. Checked in with the karmic board when you were doing that to ask if there was anything else that you needed to complete with the karmic besides these things. And they said, no, you have to stop taking responsibility for her self-esteem. And it looks like that's a pattern that's gotten developed between these lifetimes between you. It's like, for instance, in the lifetime where you were the bratty younger sister, it's like if she had really had self-esteem, she could have just stood up for herself and not played into your games. But because she was afraid of being disapproved of if she challenged you, because everyone else pampered you so much, she just played into it too, even though she was resentful. So she was very dishonest, and it was all because of her own lack of self-worth. And it had nothing to do with you, And the same in the other lifetimes. Like if she had self-esteem, it might have hurt that she couldn't marry the person she wanted, but she wouldn't have taken it so personally, and she would have just let go. But all the time, you have just been kind of taking on responsibility for her low self-esteem and low self-worth. And it's like the main thing you need to do now is just really affirm that you're willing to totally let go of all responsibility for that, and then to take action on that. Because it's really only through doing that. It's like if enough people do that in her life, then she'll finally have to start working on her self-esteem. But as long as she can kind of manipulate people and get them to feel sorry for her and feel guilty, she won't do it. So really the way to love her is kind of like to let go and say no. And say both names again. I think that's it. Just to make sure. couple of chords, but I think they're just internal issues were very clear, and I just take those out and double check. One of the main things is she really does have a very hard life. And she has a lot of problems, and she has problems she doesn't even know about. They're just barely unconscious with abuse issues. And it's like, you kind of feel that, you know, and there's a part of you that does want to help. It's like doing the codependent game just isn't what they do. The way she's really going to get help is by going to a therapist and starting to take responsibility in friendships. Until she's really willing to do that, the only thing you can do living in your life is be codependent, and that's just playing into it and keeping it in there. I did find this line of pain at your third chakra, coming from the moment on your third chakra. Did your mother kind of have some murder stuff where the kids are concerned? And yeah, it's just this pain that you took on around the third chakra level, where it looks like you've got recorded in the third chakra, but you're not past. Like, it's the way she tries to heal her self-esteem through being a murderer instead of creating self-esteem, okay? And that's just the only thing I've seen really clear. It looks like this angel is flipping the middle of her turns too. Like the part of you that felt the burden of her lack of emotional support in all ways from the family. And you bought into the guilt of her murder stuff instead of realizing that that her addiction was to being a martyr because it was the only thing that made her feel good, you know, about herself, you know, gave her some sense of self-worth. And just a little panic there, and I was trying to get all broken up. There's still an old contract in there with your mother, and I don't see one with anything else. It's more like other people think haven't been able to kind of get in on that contract at times. But the contract with your mother is to take on, to share the burden of her emotional loneliness and lack of support emotionally. Kind of like sharing her pain of low self-worth, and did your father just kind of tend to get real irritable with her and stuff when she was emotional, and not wanting to express her feelings? Yeah. Well, it's just like what I'm seeing there's a contract about taking on her low self-esteem around the betrayal from him emotionally. Like his lack of presence, his lack of emotional support, his not validating her. And it's kind of like saying we all have to have someone to validate us in order to feel good about ourselves. And so you kind of took on the job of that and taking on the pain of new validation also. So you need to burn that contract much clearer. So you have some basic understandings of it. It's just like, basically what you're doing is trying to psychically clear out of your space the stuff that still draws you into those codependent patterns. Adult child alcoholic, that kind of thing. And it's like that's kind of what lets Anne kind of keep pulling in there, you know. I'm still working on healing. It's kind of really depression. Well, you know, I've really come to just kind of, it's important to not feel sorry for people like that. There's a way that you can, like, it's like compassion with detachment. You see this stuff, you care about them, you understand that they don't love themselves, but you can't fight them again. The ability to feel compassion and non-blame, but to stay detached from the issue, knowing that you can get involved in it, which is going to complicate things for yourself in it too. It's really and truly like the only way she knew to have any semblance of self-esteem was through learning. Until she learns in her own way, you know, is it really right to try and stop her from it, you know? But you don't need to suffer from it too. I really kind of have a certain kind of respect for people's ways of keeping themselves semi-stable in almost impossible situations, even though it may not be the healthiest way in the world to do it, but that may sometimes just be the only way to know how. Yeah, I said your name and others. There's another picture that's stuck between your second and third chakras in the subconscious. And it's the images of you as a little girl and your father being kind of abusive or forceful sexually with your mother. And her like, I mean, hear her like, you know, sort of kind of afraid of him. Was he physically violent too? Yeah. It's like I see you like in your room, and you're kind of in that state where you're not exactly in shock. You're just kind of like going to this state of being resigned that there's nothing you can do about it. But it's like, you're very young, and it's like being in this state of just being totally separate. And feeling ashamed of what's happening between your mother and father, and feeling ashamed that there's nothing you can do to stop it. Like you know you can't stop it. You know you're supposed to ignore it. You know what's going on. And all you can do is try to stuff it back into your subconscious. And you just see you like lying there. Do you know that memory? And just wait for it to be able to see what you see. while I'm doing it, I'd like you to just get an image of yourself. The image I'm seeing is of you at about age 7. And I'd like you, as your adult self, to go into the room where she's hearing this stuff going on in the room. Mom and Dad are behind the closed bedroom door. She's trying to ignore it, but she's so unhappy and so lonely and just full of grief and hurt because it's happening and shame. And I'd like you to go into her and just imagine if she were your child and this were going on and she were being a part of this, what would you say to her? Letting her know that she has nothing to be ashamed of, that what her mom and dad do is not her fault, let her know that she's beautiful, and then maybe even just take her out of the house where she doesn't have to hear it anymore. We're not going to know what's going on, but this is a house to a place where there's a guardian angel there. Introducing yourself to her, talking to her about your own energy in the situation. And then get her out of the house and then tell her it's safe to cry or whatever you're feeling, it's safe to let go and turn away. But she's going to need to get in there and feel some of these emotions that she was letting be stuck, It's like she kind of put herself almost into like another world, So she didn't hold her feelings, because if she went into the emotions, she knew she might end up getting hurt too. So if you want to spend a little time actually, I'm getting that you should probably just wait until the truth. If you want to go and spend a little time with her right now, that's fine, but you're going to need to do more of this. So you just go and rest and fix yourself. That nothing is happening and not get emotional about it. Because the basic agreement is that if you got emotional about it and if you acknowledged it, that it would just make matters worse. So you have to